Hello there. Tonight we'll step into a world where the desert whispers ancient secrets and the very air shimmers with unseen guardians. Imagine, if you will, the vast expanse of sand stretching endlessly under a sky that slowly deepens from a fiery orange to an inky violet, dotted with the first hesitant stars. Feel the last heat of the day gently ebb from the earth, replaced by a cool, almost velvety breeze that carries with it the faint, sweet scent of something green and living, utterly out of place in this arid landscape. This is the promise of respite, a beacon in the immensity. Before you settle in comfortably, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below with your location and what time it is where you are. You'll see just how many others are awake with you tonight. You're not alone in the dark. Now, dim the lights, climb into bed, pull the blanket up, release all tension and let go of every thought. Just focus on tonight's journey. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery strokes of orange, crimson, and deep purple. I had been walking for what felt like an eternity, the endless dunes a relentless, undulating ocean of sand. Each grain seemed to shimmer with the day's lingering heat, but now, with twilight descending, a subtle coolness began to creep across the landscape. My canteen was nearly empty, my throat parched, and the hope I had carried through the bright, unforgiving day was starting to fray at the edges. Just as despair threatened to settle in, a breath of air, distinctly cooler and carrying a faint, sweet aroma, brushed against my face. It was unlike any desert wind I had felt before, not hot and dry, but soft, almost moist, hinting at life. I paused, my boots sinking slightly into the yielding sand, and scanned the horizon. There, barely visible against the deepening twilight, was a shimmering. It wasn't the harsh, distorting haze of a heat mirage, but something softer, more inviting, like light dancing on distant water. My weary legs, which had threatened to give out just moments before, found a new surge of energy, fueled by this impossible vision. It was a faint, emerald glow, pulsing gently in the distance, drawing me forward with an undeniable quiet pull. Every instinct told me it was a trick of the light, a cruel illusion in this desolate land, yet my heart quickened with a hope I hadn't realized I still possessed. The air grew progressively cooler with each step, and the faint, sweet aroma intensified. It was the smell of thriving vegetation, of blooming flowers and verdant leaves, a fragrance that seemed entirely alien to the barren desert around me. The sand underfoot too began to change, becoming firmer, less yielding, as if something was holding it together. The shimmering light resolved into a more definite form, not a mirage, but a concentrated point of verdant life. It was as if a part of the world had decided to defy the desert's harsh embrace, a vibrant emerald heart beating in the wilderness. The silence of the desert, which had been so absolute and oppressive, now seemed to hold a different quality, a hushed expectation, a gentle waiting. As I drew closer, the outlines of tall, slender palm trees began to emerge, their fronds swaying with an almost imperceptible rhythm in the soft breeze. Below them, a profusion of unfamiliar, broad-leafed plants formed a dense, lush undergrowth. The very air around me felt different, imbued with a palpable sense of peace, a quiet hum that seemed to resonate within my own tired bones. This wasn't merely a patch of green, it was an entire ecosystem, vibrant and alive, hidden from the world by the subtle magic of the desert. The scent of life, fresh and intoxicating, filled my lungs with each breath, pushing away the dryness and dust that had clung to me for so long. The faint glow I had seen from a distance now illuminated the edge of this remarkable place. It wasn't an artificial light, but a soft, almost phosphorescent luminescence emanating from the vegetation itself, a gentle radiance that seemed to absorb the encroaching darkness rather than fight against it. I could hear the faint, soothing sound of trickling water, a melody more beautiful than any music. My steps, once heavy and dragging, now felt lighter, almost eager, as if the oasis itself was reaching out, welcoming me into its embrace, promising solace and rest. The journey had been long, but the destination, this unexpected sanctuary, seemed worth every arduous step. A feeling of profound calm began to settle over me, easing the tension from my shoulders, the weariness from my mind. I was no longer just a traveler in a harsh land. I was an arriving guest, drawn into a place of profound, quiet wonder. The air grew cool, almost chilly, as I stepped fully into the oasis's embrace. The soft, ethereal glow that had drawn me here now revealed the full extent of its vibrant beauty. This was no mere cluster of palms. It was an entire pocket of Eden, tucked away amidst the relentless dunes. Towering date palms, their fronds a deeper, richer green than any I had ever seen, formed a protective canopy overhead, their very presence seeming to hum with a quiet energy. Beneath them, the ground was not sand but rich, dark earth, blanketed with a profusion of broad-leafed plants and delicate, glowing flowers that pulsed with their own soft light. A narrow stream, crystal clear and impossibly cool, meandered through the heart of the oasis, its gentle murmur the only sound besides the whisper of the breeze through the palm fronds. Its surface reflected the faint starlight above, creating a shimmering tapestry of light and shadow. I knelt beside it, dipping my cupped hands into the water. It was incredibly cold, purer than anything I had tasted, and it flowed with a subtle, invigorating current that seemed to wash away not just my thirst, but also the deep weariness that had settled in my bones. As I drank, I noticed something remarkable. The stream itself seemed to glow with a faint, internal luminescence, a soft, calming light that pulsed in harmony with the surrounding vegetation. Around the edges of the stream and deeper within the lush undergrowth were ancient trees unlike any I had encountered. Their trunks were gnarled and thick, etched with the passage of countless centuries, yet their leaves were a vibrant, almost impossibly healthy green. They stood silently, like ancient sentinels, their branches reaching out as if to embrace the entire oasis within their protective grasp. There was a profound sense of timelessness about them, as if they had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations beyond human memory, and held within their very bark the quiet wisdom of ages. Their presence was both comforting and awe-inspiring, contributing to the palpable sense of peace that permeated the air. I found a smooth, moss-covered stone near the stream and settled down, leaning back against the rough bark of one of these ancient trees. The coolness of the stone seeped into my aching muscles, and the soft, earthy scent of the oasis filled my senses. The air here was not just cool, it felt alive, tingling with a subtle energy that was both invigorating and deeply calming. It was as if every breath filled me with a quiet strength, pushing away the last vestiges of the desert's harshness. The overwhelming feeling was one of sanctuary, a place where the world's worries simply dissolved into the tranquil air. As the last sliver of twilight faded and the stars began to truly blaze forth in the inky sky, the oasis seemed to deepen its glow. The leaves of the plants, the surface of the stream, even the tiny dew-kissed petals of the glowing flowers all seemed to intensify their soft luminescence, turning the oasis into a natural cathedral of light. It was a gentle light, never harsh or intrusive, but enough to clearly see the beauty around me, to appreciate every vibrant detail of this impossible haven. The air was filled with the faint, sweet perfume of night-blooming flowers, a fragrance that mingled with the earthy scent of damp soil and ancient wood. I watched, mesmerized, as a small, iridescent lizard darted across a glowing leaf, its scales shimmering with 1,000 tiny reflections. Overhead, a nightingale began its hauntingly beautiful song, its notes echoing softly through the silent air, adding another layer to the oasis's natural symphony. Every living thing here seemed to exist in perfect harmony, a testament to the life-giving essence of the oasis. There was no sense of threat, no lurking dangers, only a profound feeling of safety and belonging. It was as if the desert, in its vast indifference, had chosen this one small corner to nurture and protect, keeping it hidden for those who truly needed its solace. The ancient trees seemed to lean in closer, their branches forming a protective embrace, and I felt a subtle energy radiating from them, a silent invitation to rest. The thought of setting up a camp, of erecting a tent, seemed almost sacrilegious in this sacred space. Instead, I simply stretched out on the soft earth, letting the cool, damp ground cradle me. The gentle murmur of the stream was a lullaby, the soft glow of the plants a comforting nightlight, and the sweet scents of the oasis a soothing balm for my soul. It was here, in the heart of this impossible emerald haven, surrounded by silent, watchful trees, that I finally allowed myself to truly let go, sinking into a deep, peaceful calm I hadn't known was possible. The night deepened, and yet the oasis seemed to grow brighter, illuminated by its own soft, internal light. I lay on the cool earth, enveloped by a profound sense of peace, a feeling I hadn't experienced in what felt like a lifetime. It wasn't just the physical comfort of the soft ground or the fresh, cool air. It was a deeper tranquility, as if the very essence of the place was seeping into my being, calming every frayed nerve. As my senses attuned to the oasis, I began to notice subtle, almost imperceptible shifts in my surroundings, first signs of a presence beyond the natural flora and fauna. A gentle breeze, distinct from the steady flow of air through the palm fronds, would occasionally stir the leaves directly above me, even when the rest of the oasis remained still. It wasn't a strong wind, but a delicate breath, like a soft sigh. Sometimes it carried with it an even more concentrated scent of sweet blossoms, so fleeting that I wondered if I had imagined it. These weren't random gusts, they felt intentional, a subtle acknowledgement of my presence, a silent, welcoming gesture. Then there were the shadows. As the internal glow of the plants pulsed and dimmed, the shadows cast by the ancient trees seemed to shift and reform with a curious fluidity. They didn't just move with the light, they seemed to dance with an unseen rhythm, elongating, twisting, then receding, almost as if they were observing me from the periphery of my vision. I never saw anything distinct, no definite shape, just the impression of movement in the deepest pools of darkness, a silent, watchful sentience. It was unsettling at first, but not frightening. There was no malevolence in these movements, only a quiet, ancient curiosity. The most striking occurrences involved the water. The stream, which murmured ceaselessly, would sometimes momentarily alter its flow. A ripple might appear on its glassy surface when there was no breeze to cause it, or a tiny vortex would form for an instant before dissolving, only to reappear a few feet downstream. And sometimes, if I watched closely enough, the internal glow of the water would subtly intensify or dim, as if responding to an unseen presence moving just beneath its surface. It felt like the oasis itself was breathing, a vast, living entity with a subtle heartbeat. I remember one particular moment when a single, perfectly formed water droplet appeared on a broad leaf directly beside my head. There had been no rain, no dewfall heavy enough to produce such a large, pristine drop. It simply was there, glistening with the oasis's inner light. I reached out a finger, and as I touched it, the drop shimmered and then seemed to absorb into the leaf, leaving no trace of moisture. It was a fleeting, magical interaction, a tiny, inexplicable gift. The sounds, too, held a subtle oddity. The nightingale's song, which had been so clear, would occasionally be joined by fainter, almost ethereal notes, like the distant chime of tiny bells or the whisper of silk. They were so soft, so delicately interwoven with the natural sounds of the oasis that they could easily be dismissed as the rustling of leaves or the chirping of unseen insects. Yet listening with an open heart, I felt a distinct pattern to them, a melodious undertone that spoke of a deeper, hidden intelligence. These weren't the sounds of animals. They were resonant vibrations, echoes of something ancient and wise. These subtle shifts, these gentle nudges from the unseen, began to create a tapestry of quiet wonder around me. There was no grand reveal, no sudden appearance, just a continuous series of soft confirmations that I was not alone here. The air itself seemed to hum with an unspoken understanding, as if the oasis was alive in a way I had never conceived, imbued with a consciousness that gently touched my own. I felt an overwhelming sense of acceptance, as if the sacred place and whatever benevolent forces dwelled within it had chosen to reveal themselves to me in the most delicate and respectful way. My initial weariness had long since faded, replaced by an alertness born not of anxiety, but of profound fascination. I lay there, simply observing, allowing these gentle, inexplicable phenomena to wash over me. It was a silent conversation, a dialogue of senses and subtle energies. The oasis was speaking, not with words, but with whispers of light, shifts of shadow, and the soft caress of unseen breezes. And I, the weary traveler, was listening, my heart open to the quiet magic unfolding round me. I felt not fear, but a deep sense of honor, to be granted such an intimate glimpse into the hidden life of this extraordinary sanctuary.
As the night deepened into its quietest hours, the subtle hints of a guiding presence grew stronger. My gaze was continually drawn to the main spring, the very heart of the oasis from which the shimmering stream flowed. It was here that the gentle luminescence seemed most concentrated, radiating outwards like the beating pulse of the entire sanctuary. I noticed that the light here wasn't static. It ebbed and flowed with a slow, deliberate rhythm, almost like soft breathing. I watched, utterly captivated, as a faint shimmering form began to coalesce near the spring's edge. It was not a solid shape, but more like a distortion in the air, a visible shimmer of heat over an invisible fire, yet contained and perfectly still. It was translucent, allowing the light of the spring to pass through it, yet there was a density to its outline, like looking through rippling water at something just beneath the surface. My breath caught in my throat, not from fear, but from a profound sense of awe. This was what had been stirring the chateaus, coaxing the gentle breezes, and rippling the water. This was the guardian I had sensed. The form itself was indistinct, a tall, slender column of light, vaguely humanoid but without sharp features. There was no head, no limbs in the way a person would have them, just an elongated, graceful shape that seemed to be woven from starlight and the oasis's own gentle glow. It hovered just above the ground, never quite touching the earth, its presence radiating an incredible sense of calm and watchfulness. It was neither threatening nor overtly welcoming, simply present, like an ancient tree that has stood for millennia, observing the world with quiet wisdom. As I continued to observe, the shimmering form seemed to subtly adjust its posture, as if settling more comfortably into its silent vigil. A faint, almost imperceptible current of air swirled around it, carrying with it the concentrated scent of dew-kissed jasmine and damp earth, a perfume so intoxicatingly peaceful it felt like a caress. This wasn't merely a trick of the light. This was a living, breathing entity, one made of pure energy and benevolent intent. It was the sentinel of the spring. I felt no compulsion to approach it, nor did it seem to invite me closer. Our interaction was purely one of quiet observation. It was as if my presence was acknowledged, understood, and accepted without the need for words or overt gestures. There was a profound sense of mutual respect in the silence between us. I was a guest in its sacred space, and it, in turn, was revealing itself in a way that spoke of trust and ancient hospitality. Its very stillness was a lesson in patience, its shimmering form a testament to the unseen forces that shape the world. Occasionally, the light within the form would pulse, a soft, internal glow that momentarily brightened its outlines before receding again. Each pulse felt like a silent breath, a gentle heartbeat resonating through the oasis. It was as if the guardian was drawing energy from the very spring it protected, and in turn infusing the water with its essence, ensuring its purity and its continued flow. This symbiosis was evident in the vibrant health of the surrounding plants, which seemed to lean subtly towards the spring, drawing sustenance from its nurtured waters. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the image of the shimmering sentinel imprint itself on my mind, letting the profound tranquility of its presence wash over me. When I opened them again, the form was still there, unwavering in its vigil. It was a silent testament to the hidden wonders of the world, to the magic that exists just beyond the veil of ordinary perception. To be so close to such an ancient and benevolent being without fear or demand was an extraordinary privilege. The understanding that began to settle in my mind was that this sentinel wasn't merely guarding the physical spring. It was safeguarding the very essence of the oasis, its purity, its wisdom, its quiet power. It was the embodiment of the oasis's protective spirit, a silent promise that this haven would remain untouched, a beacon of life and peace in the heart of the vast desert. And in its silent watch, it seemed to extend that protection, that peace, to me as well.
The profound tranquility of the oasis, enhanced by the silent vigil of the shimmering sentinel, began to work its subtle magic on me. It wasn't just physical rest that I found here. It was a deeper, more pervasive healing that seemed to penetrate to the very core of my being. Every breath I took in this place felt like an infusion of renewed life, and I began to feel the echoes of ancient blessings rippling through the very air. The subtle, sweet fragrance that permeated the oasis seemed to deepen and transform. It was no longer just the scent of flowers and damp earth. There was an added note of something ethereal, something almost sacred. It was as if the air itself was imbued with centuries of peace and gentle well-being. Each inhalation felt like drinking from an invisible fount of calm, soothing the raw edges of stress and fatigue that had accumulated over my journey. My muscles, which had been tight and aching for days, began to relax with a profound sigh, as if shedding layers of tension they had held on to for too long. As I lay there, listening to the gentle murmur of the stream and the almost imperceptible rustle of the palm fronds, I felt a lightness begin to spread through my limbs. It was as if the weight of the desert, of my worries, of the world itself, was slowly lifting from my shoulders. My thoughts, which had been a restless jumble of anxieties and plans, began to quiet, settling into a serene stillness. It was a clarity of mind I hadn't experienced in years, a precious silence that allowed me to truly be in the moment without the constant chatter of internal dialogue. I noticed that the faint internal luminescence of the plants and the water seemed to pulse in harmony with my own slowing breath and heartbeat. It was as if the oasis was attuned to my presence, subtly adjusting its energy to resonate with my own. This symbiotic connection fostered an incredible sense of belonging and safety. I felt completely enveloped, protected from the harshness of the outside world, cradled in an embrace of pure, unadulterated peace. A warmth, gentle and pervasive, began to spread from my chest outwards, a feeling not of heat, but of profound comfort and subtle regeneration. It was as if every cell in my body was being gently recharged, rebalanced, and restored. Old aches, lingering stiffness from past injuries seemed to soften and dissipate, replaced by a fluid ease. My skin, parched from the desert sun, felt moisturized and refreshed, as if it had absorbed the very essence of the oasis's verdant life. The concept of time seemed to dissolve in this place. Hours might have passed, or mere minutes. It was impossible to tell, and it no longer mattered. All that existed was the present moment, filled with the gentle sounds, the soft lights, and the pervasive sense of well-being. I felt a profound gratitude for this unexpected sanctuary, a place to find water. It was a place to find oneself again, to shed the burdens of the journey and rediscover an inner calm. It felt as though the very ground beneath me was humming with ancient energy, a resonance that whispered of countless travelers who had found solace here before me. The ancient trees, standing like silent witnesses, seemed to infuse the air with their enduring wisdom, their quiet strength flowing into the very core of my being. This wasn't a temporary reprieve, it felt like a fundamental shift, a recalibration of my entire system. As I drifted between wakefulness and a profound relaxation, I understood that this oasis was more than just a source of water and shade. It was a living testament to resilience, a place where life flourished against all odds, sustained by unseen guardians and infused with a timeless, benevolent power. The healing touch of the oasis was not forceful or demanding. It was gentle, subtle, working its way inward with a quiet persistence, promising a renewal that would last long after I eventually left its verdant embrace. I simply surrendered to it, allowing its ancient blessings to wash over me, feeling myself become lighter, clearer, and infinitely more at peace. As the night deepened further, and the gentle whispers of the oasis settled around me, I found myself drawn to the main spring once more. Its waters, clear and calm, reflected the vast expanse of the night sky, transforming the surface into a swirling canvas of stars. There was an irresistible pull, a silent invitation to gaze into its depths, and as I did, the surface seemed to shift, revealing more than just reflections. I began to see visions in the water. It started subtly, as a slight blurring of the starlight on the surface, followed by a momentary intensification of the water's inner glow. Then, like a ripple of pure thought, images began to form. They weren't sharp or distinct, but soft, ethereal, like memories viewed through a veil of mist. The first vision was of desert creatures thriving. I saw a family of fennec foxes, their large ears twitching, playfully chasing each other near the water's edge. Their movements were graceful, unhurried, imbued with a quiet joy. They drank from the spring, their small forms silhouetted against a backdrop of shimmering leaves, then curled up to sleep peacefully under the protection of the oasis. Next, the image shifted, and I saw a herd of gazelles, their sleek bodies glistening in a gentle moonlight that was not the moon above me. They approached the spring cautiously, their eyes alert, but as they drank, their tension visibly melted away, replaced by a serene calm. They lingered, seeming to absorb the peace of the oasis before melting back into the soft darkness beyond its borders. Each creature, from the smallest insect to the largest desert inhabitant, appeared in this watery tableau, not in a struggle for survival, but in a state of harmonious existence, nurtured and sustained by the oasis's life-giving essence. The visions then began to transcend the earthly. The stars reflected on the water's surface seemed to grow brighter. Then, slowly, imperceptibly, they began to turn. Not in the rapid spin of a planet, but with the majestic, deliberate motion of celestial bodies observed over vast spans of time. I saw constellations gently shifting, new ones rising and old ones setting in a slow cosmic dance. It was as if the water was showing me the passage of eons, the serene, unwavering rhythm of the universe unfolding in silent grandeur. The familiar patterns of the Big Dipper and Orion slowly elongated, transforming into different celestial figures, then returning to their original forms in an endless, graceful cycle. This wasn't merely a reflection, it was a window into the oasis's deep connection with the cosmos, a visual representation of its ancient wisdom. The oasis was not just a patch of green in the desert. It was a focal point of cosmic energy, a place where earthly life and celestial rhythm intertwined. The sense of timelessness deepened even further. My own existence, my small worries seemed to shrink against the backdrop of such immense, patient movement. As each vision gently faded, the water would return to its pristine clarity, only to shimmer and present another image. There was no jarring transition, no abrupt changes, just a continuous fluid unfolding of these peaceful scenes. Sometimes the images would overlap, a ghostly gazelle drinking beneath slowly turning stars, creating a beautiful, multi-layered tableau. It was deeply calming, almost hypnotic, drawing me deeper into a state of profound relaxation. I realized that these visions were not just random projections, they were a form of communication, a silent teaching from the oasis and its unseen guardians. They were showing me the enduring power of life, the harmony of nature, and the gentle, eternal rhythm of the universe. The desert, which had seemed so harsh and unforgiving, was revealed to hold a hidden, profound beauty, a cycle of life and renewal that was sustained by places like this. The visions imparted a sense of quiet strength, a reassurance that even in the most desolate landscapes, life finds a way to flourish and peace can be found. I felt my own breath align with the slow turning of the stars, my own heartbeat synchronizing with the gentle flow of the spring. It was an experience of pure, unadulterated serenity, etching itself deeply into my memory, a testament to the quiet wisdom held within the emerald heart of the desert. The visions in the water gently faded, leaving me in a state of deep, serene contemplation. The entire oasis seemed to hum with a quiet energy, a palpable sense of benevolent presence. I was no longer merely observing. I felt as though I was becoming a part of the oasis itself, my senses heightened, my being receptive to its subtle influences. It was then, amidst this profound tranquility, that I experienced a direct, undeniable interaction, the gentle touch. I was lying on my side, my hand resting idly on the cool, moss-covered earth beside the shimmering stream. The air was still, save for the soft murmur of the water and the distant, almost imperceptible rustle of palm fronds. Suddenly, I felt it. A sensation so delicate, so light, that it was barely more than a whisper against the back of my hand. It was as if a single soft feather had brushed across my skin, a fleeting contact that left an unmistakable warmth in its wake. There was no physical object, no visible source, yet the sensation was utterly real, gentle and deliberate. My eyes fluttered open, but I saw nothing. The area around my hand was empty, the air undisturbed, yet the warmth lingered, a soft, radiating glow on my skin that felt both comforting and profoundly reassuring. It was not a physical warmth from friction or heat, but an internal one, as if a quiet current of benevolent energy had passed through me. This was distinct from the general warmth I had felt earlier as the oasis worked its healing magic. This was focused, personal, and undeniably an intentional touch. I slowly turned my hand, examining it, as if expecting to see a faint outline or a shimmer of residual energy, but there was nothing visible. Still the feeling persisted, a lingering echo of that soft contact. It was a touch devoid of pressure, yet full of presence. It spoke of care, of acceptance, a silent acknowledgement that I was truly welcome here, under the watchful eyes of the gentle guardians. There was no fear, no alarm, only a sense of profound wonder and gratitude that this unseen entity had chosen to reach out. The warmth that remained on my hand began to spread subtly, moving up my arm, then gently radiating across my chest. It felt like a warm, liquid peace, dissolving any lingering knots of tension or quiet anxieties I hadn't even realized I was still holding on to. It was a cleansing touch, washing away the last vestiges of the harsh desert journey and replacing them with an overwhelming sense of calm. The feeling was akin to being embraced by a warm, protective blanket, a silent promise of safety and solace. I closed my eyes again, allowing myself to fully absorb the sensation. The lingering warmth was a beacon, guiding me deeper into a state of profound relaxation. It was a feeling of being understood, of being seen, not just as a traveler, but as a being seeking peace. The Djinn, I realized, were communicating more than just visions or subtle shifts in the environment. They were communicating through energy, through emotion, through an intangible connection that bypassed the need for words entirely. This gentle touch was a testament to their nature, not imposing or demanding, but soft, subtle, profoundly compassionate. It was a reminder that even in the vast emptiness of the desert, there existed pockets of deep, nurturing wisdom, guarded by beings whose sole purpose was to maintain balance and offer solace. The experience left me with a deep and abiding sense of peace, a feeling that I was truly being looked after, not just for the night, but for the journey ahead. The lingering warmth eventually faded, but the feeling it left behind remained, a quiet confidence, a serene contentment. It was a reassurance that I was not alone in this world, that there were unseen forces of benevolence at work, gently guiding and protecting. And as I drifted further into the embrace of the oasis, I carried that feeling of gentle warmth, that profound reassurance deep within my heart. It was truly a sacred moment, a silent blessing in the quiet heart of the desert. As the gentle touch faded, leaving behind a lingering warmth, a new subtlety began to emerge in the oasis's symphony, the conversations of the wind. It wasn't just the ordinary rustle of palm fronds. It was a nuanced interplay of whispers and sighs, carried on currents of air that seemed to flow with deliberate intent. It felt as though the very atmosphere around me was alive, filled with an unspoken communication, an ancient, soothing dialogue. The wind would pick up, not in a gust, but in a gradual swell, weaving through the leaves of the ancient trees. As it passed, it carried distinct patterns of sound. Sometimes it was a low, resonant hum, like the deep, comforting murmur of voices in a distant temple. At other times, it ascended into a soft, melodic whistle, almost like a lullaby, weaving complex, ethereal tunes through the branches. These weren't random noises. They had a rhythm, a cadence, and a subtle emotional weight that suggested intelligence behind them. I found myself listening with an intensity that surprised me, my mind quieting further, becoming more attuned to these delicate nuances. It was as if the Djinn, the unseen guardians, were using the wind as their medium, sharing their wisdom, their calm, and their presence without the need for spoken words. The wind would flow around me, sometimes swirling gently, creating a feeling of being embraced, a silent reassurance that I was in a place of profound safety. One moment, I heard what sounded like a long, drawn-out sigh, carrying with it a profound sense of ancient patience, as if the desert itself was breathing. This sigh seemed to melt away any lingering impatience or restlessness within me, replacing it with a deep, settled calm. Another time, the wind danced through the delicate, glowing blossoms near the stream, creating a delicate, tinkling sound, like tiny, unseen chimes, which filled the air with a pure, light joy. It was a fleeting, joyful whisper, hinting at the simple pleasures of existence within the oasis. There was no discernible language in these whispers, no discernible words, yet the meaning was clear. It was a communication of pure feeling, of deep knowing. The wind carried a sense of unspoken understanding, a profound empathy that bypassed the need for logic or interpretation. It simply was, and I simply received it, feeling its tranquil essence settle deep within my spirit. It felt like a gentle unfolding, a slow revelation of ancient wisdom passed from guardians to guest through the subtle caress of the air. As the hours drifted by in this state of quiet reception, I began to perceive the unique qualities of different currents. Some breezes felt like questions, inquisitive and gentle, exploring my presence. Others felt like answers, soft confirmations of the peace I sought. The air itself seemed to have a consciousness, an awareness that ebbed and flowed with the quiet life of the oasis. It was an extraordinary form of communion, far more intimate than any verbal exchange. The ancient trees, with their gnarled trunks and sprawling branches, seemed to act as conductors for these airy conversations. Their leaves trembled and rustled in response to the invisible currents, amplifying the subtle messages, translating the Djinn's unseen presence into palpable sensations. I felt deeply connected not just to the oasis, but to the very essence of the desert's hidden heart, to the ancient spirits that guarded its purest places. This constant yet unobtrusive communication through the wind fostered an incredible sense of companionship without intrusion. I was not alone, yet I was given all the space and solitude I desired. The wind was a gentle reminder that benevolent forces were ever present, watching over this sacred space and all who found solace within it. It was a profound lesson in listening, not just with my ears, but with my entire being, to the quiet wisdom that permeates the natural world, especially in places touched by such ancient, gentle magic.
As the night wore on, bathed in the soft, internal luminescence of the oasis and serenaded by the murmuring wind, I experienced another subtle yet profound expression of the Djinn's benevolent presence, the gifts of the oasis. These weren't grand gestures or obvious offerings, but rather small, delicate tokens that appeared as if by magic, placed gently within my immediate vicinity. Each discovery brought a quiet sense of wonder, a feeling of being thoughtfully acknowledged by the unseen guardians. The first gift I noticed was a cluster of tiny, unusually vibrant desert flowers. They were unlike any I had seen growing in the harsh desert beyond the oasis's boundaries. These blossoms were an impossible shade of deep amethyst and shimmering gold, their petals almost translucent, glowing with the oasis's ethereal light. They had simply appeared on the mossy bank beside where I lay, nestled perfectly between two smooth stones. There was no indication of how they got there, no disturbed soil, no broken stems. They simply were. A vibrant splash of color and delicate beauty, radiating a subtle, sweet fragrance that was even more concentrated than the general perfume of the air. I carefully picked one, marveling at its intricate beauty and the soft, velvety texture of its petals. It felt cool and alive in my hand, and as I held it, a faint tingling sensation spread through my palm, a warmth that echoed the earlier gentle touch. It was a tangible connection, a miniature embodiment of the oasis's life-giving energy. I placed it gently beside me, a precious keepsake. Later, as I shifted slightly, my fingers brushed against something smooth and cool hidden amongst the roots of an ancient tree. I pulled it out to discover a perfectly formed, unusual stone. It wasn't a common pebble, but a smooth, obsidian-like rock, polished to a high sheen, yet radiating a soft, inner luminescence that mirrored the glow of the stream. It felt cool and comforting in my hand, remarkably light for its size, and possessed a subtle, almost imperceptible vibration, like a very slow, deep heartbeat. As I held it, I felt a calming energy flow through my arm, settling deep within my core. It was a fragment of the oasis itself, a piece of its quiet wisdom condensed into a tangible form. These weren't things I could have found on my own. They seemed to materialize, placed with deliberate care. Each gift was small, unassuming, yet profoundly meaningful. They spoke of attention, of a gentle watchfulness, and a desire to impart comfort and wonder. There was no expectation of reciprocation, no demand, just a pure act of giving that filled me with a quiet, expansive joy. It was a beautiful expression of the Djinn's nature, subtle, generous, and deeply attuned to the needs of those who sought refuge in their sacred space. The gifts continued to appear throughout the night, each unique and perfectly suited to evoke a sense of quiet marvel. A single, perfectly formed, glistening date, plump and sweet, appeared on a broad, glowing leaf within arm's reach, offering sustenance both physical and spiritual. Its flavor was richer, more intense than any date I had tasted, imbued with the sweetness of pure desert essence. Another time, a strand of incredibly fine, almost translucent spun silk, shimmering with the colors of a faint rainbow, lay draped across a low-hanging branch, swaying gently in the unseen breeze. It felt impossibly soft to the touch, like spun moonlight. Each item felt imbued with the essence of the oasis, a silent reminder of its abundant life and the gentle magic that sustained it. These were not mere objects. They were physical manifestations of the Djinn's care, tangible proof of their presence and their quiet generosity. They fostered a deeper connection, a silent bond between the guest and the guardians, a profound sense of being cherished and welcome. These delicate offerings were far more impactful than any grand display, for they spoke directly to the heart, a testament to the quiet, profound wisdom of the oasis and its gentle, unseen protectors.
As the night progressed, woven with the subtle communications of the wind and adorned with the quiet gifts, I found myself settling into a profound harmony with the oasis. My physical being, once fraught with the tension of travel, now felt utterly relaxed, and my mind, previously a whirlwind of thoughts, had achieved an unprecedented stillness. This was not merely rest, it was a deeper assimilation, a process of learning the desert's rhythm through the gentle guidance of the oasis and its unseen guardians. The gentle murmur of the stream became more than just a sound. It felt like a continuous soothing pulse, a slow, steady beat that resonated with my own increasingly calm heartbeat. I noticed the subtle changes in its flow throughout the quiet hours, a slightly faster ripple at one moment, a slower, almost hesitant glide at another, and understood these shifts as expressions of the oasis's living breath. I began to unconsciously match my own breathing to its rhythm, deep, slow inhalations and exhalations that carried away any lingering traces of fatigue. The subtle glow of the plants around me seemed to dim and brighten with a deliberate cadence, mimicking the slow waxing and waning of a gentle tide. I felt my eyelids grow heavy, not with exhaustion, but with a profound sense of peace. When I eventually drifted into sleep, it was unlike any rest I had experienced in a very long time. It was deep, unbroken, and utterly restorative, a complete surrender to the sanctuary's embrace. There were no dreams, no restless tossing and turning, just a vast, quiet darkness that was supremely comforting. I awoke with the first faint hint of pre-dawn light, not abruptly, but gently, as if roused by the softest whisper. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the concentrated scent of dew and fresh life. There was no grogginess, no lingering weariness. Instead, I felt a lightness, a clarity of mind and body that was utterly exhilarating. My muscles felt supple, my joints fluid, as if every part of me had been gently recalibrated. It was the feeling of being truly, profoundly rested, not just for a night, but as if years of accumulated fatigue had been washed away. As the pale light brightened, painting the tips of the palm fronds with soft gold, I rose slowly, feeling remarkably light on my feet. I walked to the edge of the spring, stretching my limbs, and noticed how effortlessly my body moved. The movements I made felt fluid and natural, as if my body had remembered a grace it had long forgotten. My senses were incredibly sharp. The vibrant greens of the foliage seemed more vivid, the cool touch of the air on my skin more invigorating, the distant chirping of early birds more melodious. This profound rest had not just refreshed me, it had allowed me to truly absorb the essence of the oasis. I understood now that the desert's rhythm wasn't just about harsh survival. It was also about patient endurance, about the slow, persistent pulse of life in hidden places, and the profound wisdom of quiet stillness. The Djinn, through their silent influence, had guided me into this deeper understanding, teaching me to listen to the whispers of the earth and the gentle flow of time. I felt a quiet gratitude for the hours I had spent in this miraculous place. The oasis had not just offered me shelter, it had offered me a return to myself, a rediscovery of inner peace and resilience. The anxieties that had once burdened me now seemed distant, small, almost inconsequential against the backdrop of the oasis's enduring serenity. I was no longer just a weary traveler. I was a refreshed being, infused with the quiet strength and profound calm of this sacred desert heart. Refreshed and profoundly at peace, I stood by the main spring, watching the sun's first rays paint the desert sky in gentle hues of rose and gold. The oasis, however, retained its own soft internal luminosity, a vibrant emerald against the deepening blue of dawn. The air was cool, imbued with the rich, earthy scent of damp soil and blooming flowers, and the murmur of the stream was a continuous, soothing melody. As I gazed into the shimmering depths of the spring, a subtle shift occurred in the air, directly opposite where the sentinel of the spring had kept its silent vigil throughout the night. The faint, translucent shimmer I had observed before began to intensify, not becoming solid, but rather gaining a more defined sense of form. It was still ethereal, like heat rising from a distant road on a summer's day, but within that shimmer a partial glimpse of the Djinn's true form began to reveal itself. It wasn't a sudden, startling apparition, but a slow, graceful unfolding, as if the air itself was gently parting to allow a glimpse of something ancient and beautiful within. What I saw was not a complete figure, but an exquisite, almost impossibly elegant suggestion of one. Imagine a column of pure, concentrated starlight and desert air, shimmering with every color of the dawn spectrum, yet utterly translucent. There was a sense of immense height, a fluid grace that seemed to defy gravity. I perceived a faint, delicate outline, hinting at long, flowing robes that moved with an unseen current, and a gentle inclination that suggested a head, though no distinct features were visible. The entire form pulsed with a soft, internal light, brighter than the oasis's general glow, but never harsh or overwhelming. The most striking aspect was the subtle, radiant energy that emanated from this shimmering presence. It was profoundly compassionate, a wave of pure benevolence that washed over me, deeper and more intense than anything I had felt before. There was an undeniable sense of ancient wisdom within this energy, a quiet knowing that had witnessed millennia unfold. This glimpse, though partial, confirmed beyond any doubt that these were indeed the gentle Djinn, the benevolent guardians of this sacred place. I stood utterly still, my breath held, not out of fear, but out of immense respect and awe. It was an honor to be granted such a revelation. The Djinn's form seemed to be composed of the very elements of the desert at its most pristine. The clearest desert air, the purest starlight, the most subtle desert dust, all woven together with an inner light that spoke of life force itself. It moved with an almost imperceptible undulation, a silent dance that seemed to resonate with the slow, deliberate turning of the earth. There was no sound from the Djinn, no spoken word, yet the air around it felt thick with unspoken communication. It was a presence of profound peace and a silent affirmation of all the subtle interactions I had experienced throughout the night. The gentle touches, the whispers in the wind, the appearing gifts, all were manifestations of this benevolent intelligence, this quiet guardian. The glimpse lasted only a few moments, perhaps no more than a deep breath. Then, as subtly as it had appeared, the shimmering form began to diffuse, melting back into the general luminosity of the oasis, becoming once more an indistinct, benevolent presence rather than a semi-visible entity. The air, however, retained an intensified warmth, a lingering echo of the compassionate energy that had touched me. With the faint, shimmering glimpse of the Djinn's form still imprinted on my mind, the dawn light continued to spread its gentle embrace over the oasis. The air was now filled with the subtle hum of awakening life, the soft chirping of birds, the gentle rustle of leaves in the nascent breeze. As I settled once more near the tranquil spring, a new form of communication unfolded, not through visible forms or physical touch, but through the profound stillness of the air and the vast clear expanse of the night sky. Stories in the starlight. Even as the sun began its ascent, the brightest stars still lingered, particularly those reflected in the mirror-like surface of the spring. As I gazed up, then down into the water, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the light began to occur. It was as if the Djinn were drawing upon the vastness of the cosmos, weaving tales not with words, but with patterns of light, emotion, and an ancient, comforting resonance that permeated my very being. The first story was a feeling, a deep sense of the world's quiet beginnings. I felt a profound stillness, a time before form when only energy existed. Then a slow, gentle swirling, as if cosmic dust was coalescing into the first stars, the first nebulae. It was not a chaotic birth, but a serene, purposeful creation, unfolding with infinite patience. I sensed the immense, quiet joy of these first moments, the pure potential of existence. This silent narrative was accompanied by a profound sense of peace, a reassurance that the universe itself was born from calm and harmony. As this feeling settled, the stars above seemed to shimmer with an intensified brilliance, and their light, as it fell upon the oasis, felt infused with knowledge. It was as though the Djinn were showing me that the same gentle forces that shape the cosmos also shape the quiet corners of the earth, like this very oasis. There was a sense of interconnectedness, of everything being part of a vast, tranquil tapestry. Then the stories became more localized, though still abstract. I felt the slow passage of millennia, witnessed through the silent growth of the ancient trees around me. I sensed their roots reaching deep into the earth, drawing sustenance from hidden springs, anchoring themselves through countless seasons. Their silent growth was a testament to enduring strength and patient resilience, a quiet strength that emanated from the very heart of the oasis. It was a soothing narrative, teaching me about the beauty of slow, deliberate progress and the power of persistence. Through the shifting patterns of starlight on the water and the subtle energies in the air, I also felt narratives of healing and renewal. I sensed the arrival of countless weary travelers, much like myself, finding solace and restoration within these sacred confines. Each one arrived burdened, and each one departed lighter, refreshed, carrying a piece of the oasis's peace within them. These were not individual stories with specific details, but rather universal archetypes of hope and comfort whispered across time. The most profound of these starlight stories was the one of gentle cycles. I felt the rhythm of day and night, the ebb and flow of seasons, the constant graceful dance of life and dormancy. It was a deeply comforting narrative, reassuring me that even in the face of change, there was an underlying pattern of peace and renewal. The stars, which seemed to slowly turn above, were the silent witnesses to these eternal cycles, their constant presence a beacon of continuity. These narratives were not intellectual exercises. They were felt experiences, flowing into my awareness with the quiet certainty of intuition. The Djinn were teaching through pure presence, through the resonant wisdom of the cosmos itself. The stars were their canvas, the silence their voice, and my open heart their listener. I felt my anxieties about the future, my regrets about the past, gently dissolve, replaced by a profound sense of being present, anchored in the eternal moment. It was a comforting thought, to know that the vastness of the universe held such gentle guiding truths, and that the oasis was a sacred place where these truths could be felt so clearly. The starlight stories, felt rather than heard, had deepened my connection to the oasis and its gentle guardians. I understood now that their presence was not about overt control or direct interaction, but something far more profound. It was a silent, patient teaching, a lesson in understanding non-interference. The Djinn's role, I realized, was one of guardianship and subtle guidance, never direct intervention, allowing life to unfold naturally while ensuring its purest essence remained untouched. As the pre-dawn quiet settled in, I observed the delicate ecosystem around me with new eyes. The small desert creatures, the darting lizards, the nesting birds, moved freely, unburdened by any visible influence. The plants flourished in their verdant profusion, drawing sustenance from the pure spring water, their growth organic and unforced. There was no manipulation, no overt shaping of their existence, only a pervasive sense of protection and nurturing. It was as if the Djinn gently held the boundaries of the oasis, maintaining its perfect balance, allowing everything within to thrive according to its own natural inclination. I recalled the feeling of the gentle touch, the whispers in the wind, the appearing gifts. None of these had been demands or commands. They were invitations, reassurances, offerings. They were subtle nudges towards peace, quiet affirmations of welcome, gentle reminders of the oasis's benevolence. The Djinn didn't make me feel calm. They simply created an environment where calm could naturally unfold within me. They didn't force healing. They fostered conditions where my own body and mind could remember how to heal themselves. This understanding brought with it a profound sense of liberation. There was no expectation of action from me, no need to do anything to earn their favor or maintain their presence. Their guardianship was unconditional, a quiet, unwavering commitment to the preservation of this sacred space and the well-being of those who found their way to it. It was a beautiful lesson in allowing, in accepting, and in the power of subtle influence over forceful direction. The shimmering presence of the Djinn, though often indistinct, never felt imposing. It was a watchfulness born of deep care, not surveillance. Their energy was like a perfectly balanced breath, filling the oasis without ever disturbing its delicate equilibrium. They were the silent architects of harmony, ensuring the purity of the water, the vibrancy of the plants, and the tranquility of the atmosphere, all through an unseen, gentle touch. I reflected on my own life and the times I had tried to control outcomes, to force situations, to rush processes. The oasis, through the Djinn's example, demonstrated a different path, one of patience, of trust in natural rhythms, of allowing things to unfold in their own time. It was a profound lesson in surrender, not to weakness, but to the inherent wisdom of existence. The oasis didn't struggle against the desert. It simply was, a vibrant testament to enduring life, nurtured by its gentle guardians. The air around me seemed to thicken with this understanding, a palpable sense of peace that settled deep in my bones. I felt an immense respect for these beings, for their quiet power and their profound wisdom in choosing the path of non-interference. It was a teaching that transcended words, conveyed through the very fabric of the oasis itself. And as the dawn light strengthened, painting the sky with richer hues, I felt a quiet shift within me, a subtle adoption of this gentle philosophy, and a deeper trust in the quiet unfolding of life. Having absorbed the profound lesson of non-interference from the gentle Djinn, my experience within the oasis deepened further into a realization of the wisdom of patience. The quiet rhythms of this hidden sanctuary were not rushed. They unfolded with an unhurried grace, teaching me that true strength and profound calm are often found in stillness and observation, rather than in haste or frantic activity. The ancient trees, standing like stoic sentinels, embodied this patience. Their gnarled trunks spoke of centuries of slow, incremental growth, weathering countless desert storms and periods of intense heat. They didn't rush to reach the sky. They simply grew, steadily, enduringly, their roots reaching deep to find sustenance. Their very presence exuded a profound sense of calm, a silent reassurance that all things unfold in their proper time. Leaning against one, I felt its deep-rooted stillness resonate within me, quieting the restless urge to hurry that had become so ingrained in my daily life. The stream, too, demonstrated this wisdom. Its water flowed continuously, but never with a forceful rush. It meandered gently, finding its own path, carving its way through the earth with persistent, quiet determination. It nourished every plant, every creature, without ever seeming to expend effort. There was a profound efficiency in its unhurried movement, a demonstration that steady consistency often achieves more than bursts of intense, short-lived energy. Watching its serene flow, I felt my own breath deepen, my thoughts slow, aligning with its timeless pace. The soft, internal luminescence of the oasis plants also taught a subtle lesson in patience. It didn't burst forth like a sudden flash. It was a constant, gentle glow, ever present, slowly illuminating the darkness. It waxed and waned with an almost imperceptible rhythm, a quiet reminder that even light itself has its ebb and flow, its moments of subtle intensity and gentle reprieve. This soft illumination encouraged a quiet contemplation, an appreciation for the beauty that reveals itself gradually rather than demanding immediate attention. My own senses had become incredibly attuned to these subtle energies. I could distinguish the almost silent opening of a night-blooming flower, the soft thud of a date falling onto the mossy ground, the barely audible shift of sand grains at the oasis edge where the wind played. This heightened perception was a gift of patience, cultivated by simply being in the moment, without distraction or expectation. It allowed me to perceive the intricate, delicate dance of life unfolding around me, a dance that was too subtle for a hurried mind to truly appreciate. The Djinn, in their unseen guardianship, exemplified ultimate patience. They didn't appear suddenly or make demands. They communicated through whispers, through feelings, through the slow unveiling of subtle wonders. Their influence was like the gentle shaping of a desert wind on a dune, slow and persistent rather than the sudden violent force of a storm. This profound calm and strength derived from patience was contagious, seeping into my very spirit. I realized that much of my past stress and fatigue stemmed from a constant battle against time, a pervasive feeling that there was never enough of it. Here, in the oasis, time simply was. It flowed, unjudged, unhurried, offering ample space for rest, for healing, for simply existing. It was a profound relearning, an unburdening of the artificial pressures I had placed upon myself. I felt an immense sense of relief, understanding that true peace lay not in controlling the clock, but in aligning with the timeless rhythm of nature, a rhythm the oasis had so generously taught me. After days of absorbing the profound wisdom of the oasis and its patient guardians, a transformative shift began to occur within me. The gentle rhythms, the pervasive calm, and the unspoken guidance of the Djinn worked together to bring about a deep sense of release. I felt a discernible farewell to worry, as old anxieties and stresses that had clung to me for so long began to gently lift, replaced by a profound sense of inner quiet. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic exorcism of my burdens, but a gradual, subtle unfolding, like layers of mist dissipating under the gentle sun. The constant low hum of background anxiety, which I had almost come to accept as a permanent fixture of my mental landscape, began to soften. The endless mental loop of what-ifs and should-haves slowed, then quieted altogether, replaced by a serene spaciousness. The oasis, through its sheer peacefulness, created an environment where worry simply couldn't thrive. I found myself observing my own thoughts as if they were distant clouds drifting across a clear sky. There was no attachment, no emotional charge to them. They simply appeared and then drifted away, without drawing me into their familiar narratives of stress or apprehension. This detachment was liberating, allowing me to witness the mechanics of my own mind without being consumed by them. It was as if the Djinn's non-interference had taught my mind to apply the same gentle allowance to its own workings. The physical manifestations of stress also began to dissolve. The subtle clenching in my jaw, the tightness in my shoulders, the knot in my stomach. All of these physical responses to chronic worry gradually unwound. My body felt lighter, more fluid, as if years of accumulated tension were gently seeping out into the cool, damp earth of the oasis. Each breath felt deeper, more expansive, filling my lungs with the pure, life-giving air and releasing any lingering constriction. The profound sense of safety within the oasis contributed immensely to this shedding of worry. Surrounded by the watchful, benevolent presence of the Djinn, I felt completely secure. There was no need for vigilance, no perceived threat, nothing to guard against. This unconditional safety allowed my nervous system to finally fully relax, entering a state of rest and repair it had desperately needed. It was a feeling of being truly safe, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. As worries receded, they left behind a clear, quiet space within. This newfound quiet wasn't emptiness, it was fullness, brimming with a gentle joy and a profound sense of contentment. The simple beauty of the oasis, the shimmering water, the glowing plants, and the silent ancient trees was perceived with a heightened clarity and appreciation. Each sight, sound, and scent was a source of quiet delight, unclouded by the pervasive shadow of anxiety. I realized that the gentle Djinn, through their unwavering presence and the very essence of the oasis, were subtly teaching me to trust in the flow of life, to trust in my own resilience, and to trust that even in the vast, sometimes intimidating world, there are pockets of profound peace and unwavering support. This trust was the true antidote to worry, a foundation upon which a more peaceful existence could be built. My heart felt lighter, unbound by the chains of apprehension. It was a quiet triumph, a silent shedding of burdens that had weighed me down for too long. The oasis was not just a haven for the body, it was a sanctuary for the spirit, gently guiding me towards a farewell to worry, ushering in a quiet, expansive calm that promised to linger long after my time in its emerald heart. With the worries gently shed and a profound sense of inner quiet taking root, I became fully immersed in the experience of the oasis's protective embrace. It was a feeling of absolute safety and belonging that permeated every fiber of my being, far beyond the physical security of being in a hidden, watered haven. This embrace was woven from the benevolent presence of the Djinn and the inherent peace of the sanctuary itself. The air around me felt thick with a gentle, invisible shield. It wasn't a barrier that excluded, but rather one that enveloped, absorbing any lingering unease or external harshness. The constant, soft hum of the oasis, a subtle vibration that I now perceived not just as sound, but as energy, seemed to pulse with this protective quality. It was like being cradled in a vast, warm hand, utterly secure from the world beyond. Even as the desert outside stirred with its own relentless life, here within the oasis there was an unwavering stillness. The temperature remained perfectly balanced, the air always fresh and cool, the gentle light never too bright, the sounds never too jarring. It was as if the oasis existed within its own perfectly regulated microclimate, sustained and guarded by an unseen constant effort. This unwavering consistency fostered an unparalleled sense of reliability and trust. The ancient trees, with their immense root systems, seemed to extend their protective power deep into the earth, grounding the entire oasis in an unshakable stability. Their branches, reaching towards each other, formed a natural dome, a silent, living cathedral that filtered the light and softened any external sounds. I felt their quiet strength resonating with my own bones, anchoring me in the present moment, dissolving any fleeting sense of impermanence. When I closed my eyes, I could still sense the shimmering presence of the Djinn, not as a distinct form, but as a pervasive warmth, a watchful consciousness that radiated deep compassion. This consciousness was not intrusive, it was simply there, a comforting backdrop to my rest and contemplation. It was the ultimate guardian, ensuring that nothing that could disrupt the oasis's peace or my own could penetrate this serene space. This feeling of being utterly safe allowed my mind and body to enter a state of deep, restorative rest that went beyond mere sleep. It was a cellular rejuvenation, a quiet reordering of my internal landscape. The quiet confidence that had replaced my worries solidified into a profound sense of self-acceptance and inner harmony. The oasis wasn't just a place of refuge, it was a mirror, reflecting back to me the peace and resilience that lay dormant within myself. The gentle murmur of the stream, which had been a constant companion, now felt like a continuous lullaby, its flowing water cleansing away any remaining mental debris. Each drop seemed to carry with it the essence of purification, making the air feel impossibly fresh and light. I breathed it in deeply, feeling myself become more aligned, more centered. To be within this protective embrace was to experience true freedom from anxiety. It was to know unequivocally that I was exactly where I needed to be, surrounded by benevolent forces and cared for in a way that transcended human understanding. The oasis was a living testament to profound security, a sacred space where the very air whispered assurances of well-being, and where every moment was a gentle reminder of the deep, quiet peace that exists when one fully surrenders to being nurtured. It was a profound and enduring blessing.
Enveloped in the oasis's protective embrace, deeply rested and free from the grip of worry, I knew with a quiet certainty that my time here was drawing to a close. A subtle shift in the air, a gentle pull towards the outer edges of the lush greenery suggested it was time for the leaving, reluctantly. There was no sadness in this realization, but a tender melancholy, like saying goodbye to a beloved silent friend. My body, once heavy with fatigue, now felt light and invigorated, ready for the journey ahead. My mind was clear, unburdened by the relentless chatter of anxieties. The vibrant colors of the oasis, the shimmer of the water, the soft glow of the plants, all seemed etched into my memory with an incredible vividness, as if to ensure I would carry their essence with me. I walked slowly through the familiar paths, touching the smooth bark of the ancient trees, feeling the cool water of the stream run through my fingers one last time. Every sensation was savored, every moment cherished. The prospect of returning to the vast, empty desert no longer filled me with dread. The harshness I had perceived before now seemed less formidable, seen through the lens of the oasis's enduring peace. I knew that the world beyond this haven still held its challenges, its demands, but I also knew that I was fundamentally changed. The quiet wisdom imparted by the Djinn, the profound rest, the shedding of worry, these were not temporary states, but deep transformations that would travel with me. There was a quiet sadness in leaving the sanctuary, a lingering desire to simply remain in its tranquil embrace forever. The oasis had become more than just a stopping point. It had become a spiritual home, a place where my soul had been deeply nourished. To step away from such pure, unadulterated peace felt almost counterintuitive. Yet there was also an accompanying feeling of renewed strength, a quiet confidence that I now possessed the internal resources to face whatever lay beyond. I approached the edge of the oasis, where the rich, dark earth began to transition back to the softer, lighter desert sand. The line between the two felt like a subtle threshold, a gentle boundary between two worlds. I paused there, taking a deep, fortifying breath of the oasis air, letting its sweet, damp coolness fill my lungs one last time. The internal glow of the plant seemed to intensify for a moment, a silent farewell, a soft blessing for the path ahead. The unseen presence of the Djinn felt particularly strong at this threshold. It was a gentle acknowledgement of my departure, a silent assurance that the peace I had found here was not fleeting, but enduring. They didn't hold me back, nor did they urge me forward. Their influence was simply a quiet, supportive presence, a comforting anchor as I prepared to step back into the wider world. I felt a profound gratitude swelling within me for the water, for the rest, for the wisdom, and for the unseen benevolent guardianship that had nurtured my spirit.
This was not just a physical departure, it was a spiritual turning point. The oasis had prepared me, not by changing the world, but by profoundly changing me. I was leaving its verdant heart, but I was carrying its essence, its quiet strength, and its profound calm deep within my own heart. The reluctance was real, but it was overshadowed by a quiet, determined hope for the journey that now lay before me. As I stood at the gentle threshold between the oasis and the vast desert, preparing to step out, the unseen presence of the Djinn, which had been a constant, subtle companion, intensified. It wasn't a visible change, but a profound shift in the energy around me, a surge of pure, benevolent essence. This was a parting blessing, a final, deep infusion of peace and insight from the ancient guardians. The air around me shimmered, not with light, but with a palpable sense of warmth and profound quietude. It was as if the very atoms of the oasis were vibrating with a heightened sense of well-being, directly impacting my own spirit. I felt an incredible lightness, a feeling of being completely unburdened, as if every last trace of weariness, doubt, or external noise had been meticulously swept away. This was a deeper calm than I had known before, a peace that seemed to resonate from the deepest core of my being outwards. My senses, already sharpened by my time in the oasis, seemed to open even further. I perceived the subtle flow of the desert wind carrying microscopic grains of sand, each dancing in the pale dawn light. I heard the distant, gentle call of a desert bird, its melody carrying a new, profound meaning of resilience and endurance. The faintest scent of night-blooming jasmine, still clinging to the oasis air, became incredibly vivid, an olfactory imprint of profound tranquility. It was as if the Djinn were enhancing my capacity to perceive the subtle beauty and wisdom of the world, even beyond their sanctuary. A wave of pure compassion washed over me, a feeling so immense and all-encompassing that it brought tears to my eyes. It wasn't a human emotion, but something far vaster, a universal benevolence that held no judgment, only acceptance and profound care. It felt like the Djinn were imparting a final lesson, that true strength lies not in dominance, but in gentleness, not in control, but in unwavering compassion. This feeling settled deep within my heart, a warmth that promised to be a constant companion. Along with the compassion came a surge of insight. It wasn't a flash of specific knowledge, but a profound understanding of interconnectedness. I felt a silent realization that the oasis, the desert, the stars, and even my own being were all part of a continuous living tapestry. Every element played its role, sustained by the same ancient forces, guided by the same quiet wisdom. This insight brought with it a sense of belonging to something vast and eternal, alleviating any lingering feelings of isolation or insignificance. The presence of the Djinn felt like a silent, powerful embrace, not physically restrictive, but spiritually encompassing. It was their farewell, a promise that the peace I had found here was not bound to this physical location, but could be carried within me wherever I went. They were not just guardians of the oasis, they were benevolent teachers, instilling lessons that would serve me for the rest of my journey. This parting blessing was the culmination of my time in the oasis. It was the final layer of healing, the ultimate gift of spiritual enrichment. I felt a profound sense of gratitude too deep for words. I simply stood, receiving this incredible flow of benevolent energy, allowing it to permeate every cell, every thought, every emotion. As the sun slowly began to climb higher, its golden light touching the very edges of the oasis, the intense feeling of the Djinn's presence subtly softened, not vanishing, but receding into the gentle background, knowing its work was done. Stepping away from the emerald heart of the oasis, I felt the soft sand yield beneath my feet once more. The air, though now drier than within the lush haven, no longer felt harsh or unforgiving. It was simply the desert, vast and immense, but imbued with a new quality, a quiet grandeur. The profound parting blessing from the Djinn had not just refreshed me, it had fundamentally changed how I perceived the world. I was now carrying the oasis within. The anxieties that had once been my constant companions were truly gone, replaced by a profound and unwavering sense of inner calm. It wasn't an absence of emotion, but a serene acceptance of whatever might come, a deep wellspring of peace that I could access at will. The whispers of the desert wind, once a reminder of emptiness, now seemed to echo the gentle conversations of the oasis, carrying subtle messages of endurance and quiet strength. The vast expanse of the dunes, which had previously felt isolating, now seemed to stretch out like an open invitation, a canvas for renewed journey. The wisdom of patience, taught by the ancient trees and the slow flow of the spring, had become an intrinsic part of my being. I found myself moving with a deliberate, unhurried grace, each step measured and purposeful. The urgency that had once driven me, the constant feeling of needing to rush, had simply dissolved. I felt attuned to the natural rhythms of the desert, understanding that even in apparent stillness, profound movement and transformation were always occurring. My senses remained heightened, a lasting gift from the Djinn's subtle influence. The subtle shifts in light as the sun climbed higher, the intricate patterns left by the wind on the sand, the distant call of a desert bird, all were perceived with a clarity and appreciation I hadn't possessed before. The beauty of the desert, raw and expansive, was now visible to me in a way it never had been, a testament to the hidden life and quiet resilience that thrived beneath its seemingly harsh exterior. The gentle touch, the ethereal visions, the subtle gifts, these experiences had woven themselves into the fabric of my memory, not as fleeting dreams, but as profound truths. They were constant reminders that kindness, protection, and deep wisdom exist in the world, often unseen, always present for those open enough to receive them. The Djinn's non-interference, their benevolent guardianship through subtle influence, had instilled in me a deeper trust in the natural unfolding of life. I walked with a newfound lightness, not just in my step, but in my spirit. The weight of worry had been lifted, replaced by a quiet confidence and an expansive sense of peace. The oasis was no longer just a memory, it was a living presence within me, a sacred space I could return to mentally whenever the world threatened to overwhelm me. Its clear waters flowed through my thoughts, its verdant growth infused my spirit, and its ancient wisdom guided my path. The profound rest I had experienced had not only restored my physical body, but had also recalibrated my entire being. I felt a vibrant energy, not restless or anxious, but calm and steady, a sustained vitality that promised to carry me far. The journey ahead was still unknown, but I faced it not with apprehension, but with a quiet sense of readiness, knowing that the oasis, in all its silent wisdom, had prepared me for whatever lay beyond its gentle embrace. As the last vestiges of twilight deepened into the vast expanse of the night, I found myself settling once more under the boundless canopy of the desert stars. The air, no longer bearing the direct, vibrant life of the oasis, still carried a subtle echo of its sweetness, a faint, lingering perfume that mingled with the dry, clean scent of the sand. The immense quiet of the desert enveloped me, but it was a different quiet now, infused with the profound peace I had found. I lay on my back, feeling the cool desert floor beneath me, and gazed up at the heavens. The stars, countless and impossibly bright without the interference of city lights, seemed to whisper ancient secrets. They were the same stars I had seen reflected in the oasis spring, and now their slow, majestic turning felt deeply comforting, a familiar, cosmic rhythm. The wisdom imparted by the gentle Djinn, the quiet strength and unwavering calm of the oasis had become a permanent, comforting part of my being. It was here, under this vast, silent sky, that I anticipated a truly peaceful sleep. There was no sense of unease or loneliness, only a profound feeling of being connected to something immense and eternal. The anxieties that had once plagued my nights were gone, replaced by a deep, expansive stillness. My breath flowed easily, slowly, synchronizing with the quiet pulse of the desert night. Each inhalation drew in the cool, clean air, and each exhalation released any remaining tension, any fleeting thought of the journey ahead or the world left behind. All that mattered was this moment, this quiet stillness, this boundless peace. I closed my eyes, and the vibrant images of the oasis immediately filled my mind's eye. The shimmering water, the glowing plants, the silent, ancient trees standing sentinel. These were no longer just memories. They were living presences within me, a sacred inner sanctuary that I could access whenever I wished. The gentle touch of the unseen Djinn, the whispers on the wind, the subtle gifts, all had woven themselves into the fabric of my spirit, providing a constant source of calm and reassurance. Sleep came easily, a soft, welcoming blanket that pulled me gently into its depths. It was a sleep born not of exhaustion, but of profound peace, a quiet surrender to the night. I felt myself drifting, not away from awareness, but into a deeper, more profound state of rest, cradled by the vastness of the desert and the enduring wisdom of the oasis that now resided within me. My breathing became even, slow, a gentle rhythm flowing with the quiet of the night. The desert wind, now a soft, continuous murmur, seemed to sing a lullaby just for me, carrying the essence of ancient peace. The distant stars twinkled, their light a soft, unwavering beacon, guiding me deeper into tranquil slumber. I felt utterly safe, utterly at peace, knowing that the oasis's wisdom was now a part of me, a quiet strength that would guide me through every waking moment and every dreaming night. I felt myself fading gently into the soft darkness, a part of the vast, quiet universe, breathing with the stars and dreaming with the sand. The last thought was of profound gratitude for the unexpected journey, for the hidden oasis, and for the gentle guardians who shared their wisdom. Good night.